Okay, thank you. Okay. So one thing that is uh, really what I can say undermined in such situations is the mental health of all those people. Like you think about it, there are people who have lost their parents, who have lost their siblings, who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their homes. What do you think their mental condition would be? Do you think their mental health would be safe and sound and they would only be needing physical aid? I don't think so that that would be the case. Their mental health would be in tatters, in easy words. And it is as important to give them mental support and mental health support as it is to give them any physical aid. So for that, it was decided that we should have a session on mental health, specifically psychological first aid. When you go to a region and you come across a kid who has just lost his father, how do you confront him? How do you comfort him? That is the basic crux and nucleus of today's session. And that is what we will be discussing in today's session in great detail. And before we move ahead, I would like to tell you that I can vouch for one thing, which is that this is not going to be a boring session. This is not going to be just a theoretical session. This is not going to be a textbook kind of session. We won't be taking notes or highlighting things. Dr. Khairullah has prepared a very interactive session for you. We will be interacting, we will be talking about real life scenarios and how can you actually implement this. So stay put and stay hydrated and let's just dig right into it. I would like to have an introduction of the wonderful speaker who has joined us, and I would be needing a bit of support. So I will be reading it, which is that Dr. Khairallah, or JP, as he likes to be called, is a medical doctor from Lebanon. He's currently specializing in pediatrics and adolescent medicine at the American University of Beirut. After serving as the National Public Health Officer and Vice President Activities at LEMSI Lebanon, which is equivalent to like IFMSA Pakistan in Lebanon, he's currently the Program Coordinator for Mental Health at the IFMSA International. In this role, he has been supporting activity coordinators from around the world in implementing their mental health activities, as well as implementing and promoting different aspects of mental health from SCOPH members through various initiatives. After graduating from multiple workshops, JP is a public health trainer and human rights facilitator and aiming to capacitate IFMSA members worldwide. Aside from medicine and public health, he volunteers and leads in diverse community serving organizations, including Scouts and Youth Cardiac Awareness and Screening NGO. So I think this makes JP the perfect candidate for delivering today's session. And without any further ado, I would like to hand the floor over to him to come and talk about this very important session for which all of us have gathered here. JP, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Muhammad, for the very nice introduction and for organizing this, you and the OC. First of all, I hope that everyone in this meeting and your families are safe. And I wish that we were able to do this session without having the circumstances that are happening currently in Pakistan. But nonetheless, I think it's great that you guys are organizing this and that the participants here are attending this because we, as medical students, are the most qualified people to really support our communities and be there for the people around us, be there for our families, for our friends, and for our greater communities. So, just like Muhammad was saying, this is going to be a very interactive session. So please be as engaged as possible. If you are able to open your cameras, that would be amazing. That way we can have a more, personal communication. But of course, no pressure. Muhammad, can you please give me sharing access so that I can share my screen?
Sure, sure. Shayan, can you kindly look into it
Yeah,
that JP
yeah,
has
it
access?
it it worked. It worked. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me know once you can see my screen, please.
Yes, it's perfectly visible.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, in this session, we will talk about psychological first aid, and we will learn what that is in a few. So, Pakistan was flooded. You get out of your home and you see Zain, who is a 22-year-old gentleman who is bleeding severely from his arm. So, what would you do in this case? You see someone who is bleeding a lot from his arm. What would you do? Does anyone want to maybe raise their hand and let us know? What is the first thing that you would do in that situation? We need a
Uh,
volunteer.
Okay, so
Yeah.
since this is the first question, I would like to volunteer for it. But please do show up for the next questions because we want you to participate. Okay, and you can just type in the chat box. And yes, I was going to say the
Yeah.
exact same thing, which is that yes, you have to provide first aid. You have to take care of his wound and the physical aspect of his trauma. So yeah, that's the very first thing we have.
Amazing.
Example, we have to stop the bleeding.
Ama Amazing. So thank you so much, Muhammad. Thank you so much, Noor and Sarah. Yes, so in that case, we would go to that person, and of course, we would get maybe a tourniquet or something to put pressure on the wound so that we stop the bleeding and then take that person to a hospital. Okay, that's amazing. Now, we'll go to a similar scenario. So Pakistan is flooded. You get out of your home and you see Zain, who is a 22-year-old gentleman who is sitting on the street alone, confused, breathing very quickly. He is alert, but he's crying a lot. And he just says repeatedly out loud, I lost my home, my brother is dead, I lost my money. What would you do? Again, we need someone to raise their hand, uh, a volunteer, or maybe type in the chat. What would you do in that case? Anyone wants to help Zain? Okay. So Uruj is saying reassurance and a breathing exercise to calm him down. Yes. Noor is saying listen to Zain first. Zain is saying console him. Okay. These are very good answers. Sarah again is saying emotional support, even if we can do much financially, we can be there for him emotionally. Yes. Assure him that he is not alone. Try to console him and tell him it's gonna be okay. Uh, okay. We're gonna talk about it's gonna be okay in a few. But trying to console him is definitely very important to do. So thank you so much, everyone, for your answers. So I put these two scenarios back to back first to realize what psychological first aid is. So if someone, has a physical injury, if someone is bleeding a lot, you would go very quickly and you would help that person. Why? Not to heal him, not to heal the victim or the survivor, but to help them become stable until you can move them to a hospital. Okay, so of course, if they have a big injury, you will not go and suture that injury in the field. You need equipment, you need a sterile environment, you need doctors, but you at least will stop the bleeding so that the person doesn't, become worse. The same thing is for psychological first aid. So when someone is injured psychologically, emotionally, this is where we need to provide first aid in order to stabilize that survivor. Once we stabilize them, then we can move them to a more specialized care. Then we can move them to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or whatever they need later on. Okay, so this is the whole concept of psychological first aid. Uh, so why are we doing this session now? Simply, just like Muhammad said at the beginning, because Pakistan is currently going through a crisis, and a lot of people in Pakistan are suffering psychologically, are suffering from trauma because of the things they see, the thing that they experience, or even trauma from what they heard. So even if I'm in a region that isn't affected by the floods or the heavy rainfalls. And if I hear that another region is suffering from this is also traumatizing. If I see these things happening on TV, if I hear from a friend or a family member who is there about their experience and their trauma, this can also be traumatizing for me. So this is why we're doing psychological first aid. It's to provide emotional support in the first hours after a crisis. And it's based on multiple principles. We will learn them by the end of the session. So the look, listen, link, the different rapid model, and steps for psychological first aid, and how to do the grounding techniques. Someone already talked about breathing exercises, so that's a very good answer. So, PFA or psychological first aid is the skills and knowledge that you can use when you see someone in distress, someone who is not doing okay mentally, emotionally after a crisis happens. And again, it's just a way for us to reduce the initial stress, to stabilize the person after the trauma in order for us to transfer them later on to a more, advanced care. It's for us to help them adapt, help them cope, and help them function better in the short term, but also in the long term. So, it specifically happens when someone is exposed to a serious crisis event. It can be a personal event. So, for example, if someone loses someone they care about, this can be very traumatizing for them. So, if they are in distress, then of course we can provide them with psychological first aid. It can be at the level of a local community. So, if something happens at the level of a small, for example, city or a rural area, then we can provide psychological first aid, or it can be at the bigger scale, such as what is happening, unfortunately, now in Pakistan. Psychological first aid can be good for adults, for the elderly, but also for children. And of course, children are a special population, and we will do an example at the end for us to practice. And there are some techniques that you can use for children specifically, but it can be important for everyone. But remember that not everyone who experiences a crisis will need psychological first aid. And this is important for you because you can only do so much, right? Uh, just like Muhammad was saying at the beginning, there are over 800 people who were lost in the floods. There are millions of people who are displaced out of their homes. So can you, as an individual human being, as an individual medical student, provide psychological first aid for millions of people? Of course you can't. You cannot help everyone. And this is why you have to choose the people who are in most need of psychological first aid. So keep in mind that if someone, even if they undergo a crisis, if they are stable, then they don't need psychological first aid right now. Okay? And we will talk about this at the end, but remember that if someone does not want your help, you should not give them your help. Offer the help. Tell them, I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. I'm here to provide you with assistance. But don't force help on them because this will not be, useful. So I think we answered this question, right? So, uh, in one sentence, who can tell me when is psychological first aid used? Again, you can type in the chat, or preferably you can raise your hand and unmute. Okay. Shayan is saying in times of distress. Yes, exactly. Okay. In serious crisis. Exactly. And when someone is, not doing well emotionally, in times of distress for people who need it. Thank you so, so much. Um, so in wars, in conflict zones, 1 in 5 people, according to the WHO, will later on develop severe psychological or psychiatric disease. So they will develop either depression, anxiety, PTSD. This may trigger the onset of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia if the person already has a tendency to develop bipolar or schizophrenia. So 1 in 5 people is a lot. Imagine that in a room of 100 people, 20 of these 100 will develop a serious psychiatric illness after a war or after a conflict or after a major crisis. Uh, so just like you guys answered, anyone who is in distress affected by a big disaster, a big crisis, or even a personal experience. So, who can provide psychological first aid? Let's see. In your opinion, who can be a psychological first aid provider? Shayan is saying anyone who is capacitated. Mariam, anyone trained for it? Every trained individual. Okay. So, Muhammad, if you remember in August meeting, we had very different answers than these. These are very good answers, actually. Amazing. Yes. So, anyone who is trained and who knows how to do psychological first aid. Most
Back
people
then, JP,
think
we
that,
Yes, I'm sorry
yeah,
for interrupting you, but back then, I myself answered that it has to be like, a healthcare provider who needs to have training in mental health or in psychiatry. And all of us were rather surprised when you broke the news that anyone with a basic training can do it. So I think these people, they are already quite ahead of where we were in the August meeting.
right, right. I completely agree. So, anyone can be a PFA provider. Anyone who is willing to learn the skills and who is willing to help other people. It doesn't have to be a medical student. It doesn't have to be a doctor. It doesn't have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist because, as we said, psychological first aid it is just the first step to stabilize the person. And then the more professional help will be given by a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a social worker. So, any member of the general public can learn PFA, and already most of the people have some idea of how to do that. So, if your friend just went through a breakup with their, significant other, you probably sat with this friend and started talking to them, started listening to them, started consoling them. These are the basics of psychological first aid. But a PFA provider is someone who should learn how to do things properly and to avoid harming in any possible way. Okay? So, where should PFA be provided, in your opinion? What is the ideal place to give first aid, psychological first aid? So any place needed, anywhere. Okay. Okay, I'll give you some food for thought. So, you know, there's a there's an earthquake somewhere, and you happen to be safe from the earthquake. Nothing happened to you physically, and you go out and you start helping people psychological first aid. Is anywhere a good place for PFA to be given? Let's see your answers. Any calm place without apparent triggers? That's a very good answer. Whenever it is required in a calm place. Yes, if a person is in distress, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think location matters. We'll talk about this. Okay. Away from the place where the trauma takes place or segregated. It should be a safe place. Yes, in a suitable environment where the trauma can be triggered. Okay, so these are very good answers. So, um, of course, it has to be a safe place. For example, if we go back to the earthquake scenario, and you know that other earthquakes may happen in the next few minutes, you don't want to sit next to a big, tall building and give psychological first aid because it physically is not a safe place to be. Same thing if you have, a terrorist attack and there's a terrorist who might still be on the loose. You don't want to do it right where you are and risk that you and the survivor will be at physical harm. And two people actually mentioned that we want to be as far away as possible from the trigger. And that's also a very good answer because, if a certain incident happens at home and now the home environment is a triggering place, and the person will relive the trauma every time they are there, then you probably want to move the survivor away from that trauma trigger. Okay? So you need to choose as much of a safe space as possible. Okay? Definitely in disasters, you don't have too many options. If there are floods everywhere, you really don't have a choice. You have to do it on the street, you have to do it wherever the person is, because everywhere there are triggers and signs. But if you are able to move the person to a safe space, a safer space where triggers are minimized, then this is a good idea. And sometimes the trigger uh, can be the person providing first aid. And I gave this example in August meeting as well. I'm sure that those of you who were there remember this. Imagine that, for example, a woman uh, trigger warning sexual abuse. Imagine that a woman was sexually abused by a man, and then you, as a male medical student who thinks that they are this big hero who is there for the survivor to help them overcome their trauma, you go there, and the woman sees a man who is there to help her. This by itself can be very triggering. So if you have colleagues who are female psychological first aid providers, then probably it would be a better idea for them to give the first aid in order to avoid the trigger. Okay? So these are examples of potentially unsafe spaces for the survivor or for the victim. Okay? In psychological first aid, always keep in mind cultural sensitivity. Remember that everyone comes from a different religious background, from a different cultural background, from a different family where they have their own beliefs, their own way of doing things. So you always have to be respectful to the survivor, to the person in front of you. Always listen to them without judging whatever they're saying, without judging their beliefs. without questioning uh, their situation, right? You should never say, you know, I know that you're sad, but that you lost your home, but look, there are people whose family is dead. Like this is not a good thing to say in psychological first aid because you cannot compare the experience of someone to the experience of someone else, right? You cannot know the coping mechanisms of the person. You cannot know what they have experienced before. Maybe they don't already have a family. Maybe all they have is their home. Or maybe, their family is far away, but they just lost the communication tools to reach out to them. So always be mindful of what the person is going through and never ever minimize their trauma, minimize their feelings or their emotions. Okay? And you always have to use their culture, their beliefs to help them. So if someone is a strong believer in God, for example, and they tell you that they use God, they use their religious beliefs while speaking, then definitely you can use that to your advantage while you're helping them. But if someone doesn't mention this, you don't have to say it yourself because maybe they don't believe in God. Maybe they have different beliefs. They have a different religion that you are not aware of. So always be sensitive to the background of the person. And remember that they may have some vulnerabilities. So, for example, we talked about children. They are a vulnerable group that you have to be aware of. People with living with certain health conditions or with disabilities and people who are already a minority, who are already at risk of being discriminated against or having violence against them. Okay, so far, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Uruj is saying that invalidation should be avoided. I completely agree. Something else that should be avoided, and we'll talk about this at the end, but because someone already mentioned it, do not give promises that you cannot keep. So do not tell the person everything is going to be okay when you really can't know that everything is going to be okay, right? So if someone just lost their sibling or their parent, and they heard, everything is gonna be okay, you're gonna be like, how? Right? Like, how are things gonna be okay? I just lost my family. I just lost my home. You cannot promise me that everything is gonna be okay. Okay, so always be mindful of the words that you use, and especially be mindful of how the person in front of you might understand these words, given their background and given their beliefs. All right?
Uh,
So,
one thing
yes,
Okay,
yes.
JP, one thing I'd like to add is like a bit of cultural context to it, which is since you mentioned God, since you mentioned spirituality, since you mentioned people's beliefs, uh, if we take the example of Pakistan, a big chunk of Pakistan, or like the majority of it, is actually Muslims. So, one thing that we have seen often in situations like this is that when people go to the victims of such crisis, the one thing that they say is that it is a test, or it is like, yes, like it's a test from God, and you are being tested. So that just, uh, makes people think, why am I a bad person? Have I done anything wrong to deserve this? So I think this is something that really nicely ties to your point, which is that if they have a belief system and you can do something positive to add to that belief system, like you can utilize their belief system for a positive feedback, then it is good. But if you are going to say something that is going to further deteriorate their mental facility and make them question their beliefs, or make them question the decision of God, if I may call that, I think that is something that should be avoided.
Thank you so much. This was very well said. Like I couldn't have explained it better. And this is why only use like in things related to beliefs, um, only use the words that the person mentions. Because in crisis situations, some people just hold on to their beliefs and to their religion even tighter. So if they had if they had a belief of 80%, this belief is so dear to them to explain the whole situation and to give them comfort that now this 80% becomes 100. They hold on tight to it. And there are some other people who go the opposite way and who start to question their beliefs and their religion. And you're not there to intervene in that process. As a psychological first aid provider, you're not there to help them go one way or another because this is just a coping mechanism for them. You're there to just walk with them on their path to recovery, on their path to coping. Okay, so only use the things that they tell you about. So if they say, if they strongly believe that this is a test from God, and this gives them comfort because in their mind they just survived um, and and then things will become better later on, then walk with them. But if they don't mention it, or if they tell you, I don't understand how this is happening, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to us? Then just don't offer any additional ideas for them to follow. Okay, just let them have it the way they find comfort. Okay. So we already talked about what's the difference between PFA and clinical or professional therapy. So anyone can do PFA, but only psychologists, psychiatrists can do clinical therapy. PFA's job is to stabilize. It's in the immediate stage. So you cannot do psychological first aid 2 years after the trauma. Like this doesn't work. It has to be immediately after the crisis or after the distress. Okay? It provides short-term stabilization or short-term relief, whereas therapy is more long-term. It goes on for months or even years. And definitely the tools used are very different. We will not go into clinical therapy. This is not the topic of today. And I am not trained to, on clinical therapy, but we will go more into psychological first aid. So we will change a bit the scene. Let's say you live in a small village in Pakistan, and suddenly you hear intense screaming coming from the neighbors. So at the neighbor's house, there's Mariam, who is a 9-year-old girl. Mariam lives with her mom, and she was studying, after school. And then suddenly there's an armed person who goes into the house, who steals their money, who shoots at her mom, and kills her mom. Mariam is just screaming. She's alone right now with her mom right in front of her. What would you do? I need one volunteer to unmute. This time, unmuting is necessary because it has to be an interaction. And I will play the role of Mariam, and you will be the psychological first aid provider. So who wants to try? Don't be shy. Um, don't be.
If
scared.
we
This is
if
just,
we don't
an
have
exercise.
a volunteer, then we have to nominate someone for this. We have to, actively ask
Yeah.
someone if we don't have a volunteer.
Yeah, we'll start
Let's
naming
just
people, which is which is not gonna be very nice. So let's go. We need a volunteer, you guys.
okay. Let's go with Adil Muhammad Yasin if he's in meeting with us. Adil, are you here? Do you want to answer it, or should we go to someone else?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Yes,
My,
Adil, please go on.
sorry about the disturbance.
No
Uh,
worries at all.
First, actually try
Okay,
to
so
maybe calm the girl. I'm not sure how to make it more interactive.
okay, so I'm the girl. I'm Mariam.
Hmm.
So just talk to me. I'm sitting here. I'm crying a lot. Just talk to me.
I'd ask her what's her name. Maybe okay, she's my neighbor. I already know her. So
Mhm.
I'd just make my presence obvious there so that she doesn't feel alone in this scenario. I'd make sure that I'm.
Okay.
Plus, I would actually like to make the presence of another female there in order to support her better in this case. So I'd say, Mariam, we are here for you. Uh, would you like me to call your relatives right now? We are here to support you. I'd try my best to calm her nerves down, but I really don't know how to handle it in the actual situation. These are just theoretical answers, but I'll just try, I guess.
Okay. So actually, that's a very good try. That's a very good attempt. So thank you so much, Adil, for this. You mentioned, making your presence felt, which is a very important step in psychological first aid. So how to PFA? There's two frameworks that we will learn together for you to remember. They are very easy frameworks. And it's just a checklist for you whenever you are in active mode, right? So let's say actually that someone is now in distress. I just want you to remember these two checklists and go through them one by one. So you have to look, listen, and link. First step is looking. Look at the person in front of you. Look at the situation, the context the person is in. Look for different clues on what the person is going through, why they are behaving the way they're behaving, and what can you use in order to help that person. Okay? So when you look, you see a 9-year-old girl who is sitting. She's trembling. She's crying a lot. She's sitting in a fetal position, holding her feet with her arms. She has her head down, and she's sitting in the corner of the room. Um, you look and you don't see any physical injury, so you don't see any blood anywhere. She's awake. So there are no signs of direct trauma to her. However, you also see a body on the ground, right? Uh, you see next to the girl a small teddy bear. Okay, so all you're doing is you're identifying the most important elements in the situation. You are looking and you are describing what you see. The next step after you look is to listen. Uh, you go and you introduce yourself. You ask her for her name if you don't know it yet. If you know the name, you use the name. So, hi, Mariam, I'm here. Okay, and we'll learn about the details in the next slides. And you start giving her, encouraging her to speak so that you are able to listen. And the final step is to link. You link the person to resources that will be helpful for them after your session, your PFA session is done. Okay? So you look, you listen, and you link. If you notice in these three, you don't have talk, speak, give advice anywhere, right? No one is asking you to give advice. No one is asking you to provide your opinion on things. You just have to look, you have to listen, and you have to link. Okay? So these are the three main things that you will be doing all the time during your PFA session. So you look by checking for the safety, your safety, the safety of those who are around the survivor, and the safety of the survivor. Okay? So if you go in, you hear the screaming, and you see someone in the room with a gun, you will not run towards Mariam and start giving Mariam psychological first aid because you like bad things might happen to you, and you don't want one victim to become two victims, right? Same thing for, the example of the earthquake that we gave at the beginning. If there are earthquakes and the earthquakes are still happening at a frequency like every few minutes, and the survivor is sitting right below a big tree or a big building, you're not gonna sit next to them and start giving them psychological first aid. No, you will take that survivor, you will move them somewhere physically safe, and then you can start providing PFA, right? Or you will call the police. Hello, there's someone shooting at my neighbor's house. Can you please come? Right? You will not go in and start the psychological first aid session uh, at the expense of your safety. You will look by also checking for people who have basic first aid needs. What does this mean? If someone is physically injured, you will not waste your time starting with psychological first aid, right? So if someone, has a very big injury to, again, is bleeding a lot, we will not observe the person while they're bleeding and then tell them, how can I help you? Right? I know that this must be very difficult for you. How are you feeling right now? They're bleeding. Go help them with their bleeding. Stop the bleeding. Uh, give them the basic needs, and then move to psychological first aid. Okay? The needs can simply be as well, someone who survived the floods, but they're full of, water. They're drenched in water. They're shaking because they're super cold, and they just need someone to give them a cover for them to get warmer. So these are the basic needs. And then look for people with serious stress or distress. And again, remember that you cannot help everyone. So if you have, 100 people who were affected by this, you will have to look for those who are most urgent in terms of psychological first aid. You will look for someone who is in extreme distress. You will help them first, and then you will move to people who are in a bit of a lower distress. Okay? So you will have to do some kind of triage. So these are the things to look for. Listen, ask the person what they need. Ask them if they want your help, if they want support. Ask them if they have any concerns, anything that they are afraid of, anything that they want right now. Um, Listen to them, help them feel calmer, and then at the very end, link them to the basic needs. So, you can tell them, I know that right now you just lost your home, and I know that this organization, this NGO, provides free beds at night for people who lost their homes. So link them to organizations that provide them with food, link them to organizations that provide free psychological um, assistance or sessions. Okay? Give them information, link them to information. You can give them, a brochure about how to cope with stress or how to do breathing exercises. You can give them a website or a video that helps them, calm down. Link them to loved ones. Ask them, is there someone in your family uh, who you are comfortable with spending your time with, who can help you in the situation, who can support you? So link them to resources, link them to organizations, link them to needs, link them to information. Okay? Different people respond to trauma in different ways. So some people become aggressive, some people start, screaming and shouting, some people just go numb and, act as if nothing happened, or just become completely unresponsive. And then later on, at the long term, they can develop different reactions to the trauma. So some people develop anxiety, some people develop PTSD, some people develop depression. Different people react to crises in different ways, and you have to understand this in order to provide the person with the best care. Okay? So again, so far, does anyone have any questions? I will go through the chats. Okay, reflective listening should be the first step. Yeah, we'll talk about this. When someone loses a loved one, you sometimes don't know what to say. You can just tell them everything's yeah, it's one of the most difficult situations, honestly, because yeah, what can you say to someone who just lost a loved one? It's extremely difficult. But just like Nasir said, you can just sit with them and listen. You don't have to say anything. You can just listen. Okay. Um, Rapid. Yeah, so Muhammad knows the rapid model, which is an amazing model, and we'll talk about this right now. Shift Mariam to a place away from the scene. Okay. During the floods, a person lost 22 family. Wow, this is a lot. It's impossible to talk to them. Severely traumatized. It's important to be strong yourself before providing psychological first aid. It's definitely extremely important to, again, we'll talk about this at the end, to yourself be prepared for for the help that you will provide. Otherwise, do not provide it because you will be doing more harm than good to yourself and to the survivor. Okay, we'll talk about this at the end. If the person doesn't want to talk at all, there are ways, um, including grounding techniques that we will learn as well. Yes, it's okay to ask Mariam if she's hurt. Definitely. Okay, so ask her, like, is anything specific hurting you right now? Do you have pain or like whatever word they use for pain? Um, so yes, definitely ask the person. Children will be prioritized than adults. It also depends. Okay, because sometimes if the caregiver of the children is in a good mental state, then they can help you with providing psychological first aid. Okay, so you might have to stabilize the caregiver first and then go to the child if the caregiver is in extreme distress as well. Okay, sometimes children just don't understand what is happening. But definitely, since they are at higher risk, they are more vulnerable, then you have to prioritize them. Okay, then Aisha is asking, some people don't want to move away from the place of the distress. Do we force them, or PFA is provided at the same place? Um, so unless there is physical harm, potential physical risk, then you don't have to move them, right? If they want to stay where they are, you cannot just force them to move, right? Except if there is physical risk. So if something might fall on their head while they're sitting there alone, then yes, make every effort to move them. Try to reason with them, try to talk to them as much as possible, and ask them to move, and then tell them, we can maybe bring something from that room that will remind them of the room, right? So, for example, if there's, a small photo hidden somewhere in the room, you can bring the photo with you. Or if there's, a certain thing that they might be attached to, you can bring it with you, but make every effort to make them move. Otherwise, if they just don't want to go, don't force them to go. Okay? So thank you so much for your questions. Now, how to do PFA. So first of all, we talked about ensuring safety, your safety and the safety of the survivor. Respond to their physical needs, stabilize them, make sure the environment is a safe space away from triggers, and then use the rapid model. How can we stabilize the person is a very good question. We stabilize them with grounding techniques. So I want one volunteer. Again, this time you will just have to like it's not a test. This time we will do the exercise with you, so don't be scared. I want someone to raise their hand and volunteering on this. Come on, come on, come on. Maybe Zarmeen Zahra? Can you hear us? Okay. Anyone else? Maybe
Let's go
Hazila?
with, yes, let's go.
Yeah, Uruj. Okay. Uruj. So, um,
Hi everyone, am I audible?
hi. Yes, you are. You are.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So, Uruj, we will try together one of the easy grounding techniques that can be done. So, I want you to name 5 things that you can see.
I see my wall clock. There's a frame, a sofa in front of me. I can see my floor, and I see a globe on the table, and
Okay.
a model of a model of a deer as well. I think that makes it 5, right?
Okay. Okay. What about 4 things that you can touch?
4 things I can touch. I can touch my phone right now, the cushion next to me, the sofa I'm on, um, a shield that is on a table next to me. Yeah, that makes 4.
Okay, it can be right your own hand. I can touch my
Yes,
hands. I can feel, right. Yeah, I can feel the clothes on me, on my skin.
yes.
I can feel
I
the
can feel my
chair
hair. I can touch my hair. Yeah.
floor. Exactly,
I
exactly.
totally
What
forgot.
about three?
I negated myself so
Oh
bad in
no.
this.
Oh no, no, no. You can choose whatever is there, right?
Yeah, okay,
Anything
okay.
can work. I'm just giving more examples.
Okay, okay,
So
perfect.
what about 3 things that you can hear other than
Um,
my voice,
I
other
can
than me?
I can hear to the Isha prayer, the Azan call for Isha, and
Yeah.
I can hear my siblings in the background. They're a little far, but like yeah, they're in the room talking. And what else? And there's a car going outside on the road next to my house.
Okay, that's very good. So someone in a crisis may tell you, I can hear the shoutings or the noise in the background.
Yes.
I can hear the wind, right, going through
Yes.
my ears. What about two things that you can smell, Uruj?
I can smell my own deodorant right now,
Okay.
and I can smell that my mother has made chicken in the kitchen. I don't know what
Wow, okay.
specifically has been
I
made, but
hope
like yeah.
I hope we're invited. And then one thing that you can taste right now.
One thing I can taste right now, I don't have anything to eat next to me, but and I feel very dehydrated right now. So I don't know, probably
Okay.
dehydrated. That's like a dry mouth right now.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Someone might tell you, I can taste a metallic taste in my mouth, or maybe I can taste,
Yes, probably when they're
yeah,
in
nothing.
a
It has,
situation like there has been an explosive or so, like something like that. So they might have inhaled some kind of dust particles or the smoke or
yeah,
similar
yeah,
things.
right, right. So, thank you so much, Urush, for going through this
You're welcome.
exercise.
Thank you so much.
So, the whole point of a grounding technique is um, is whenever the survivor in front of you is just disconnected from the real world. You're talking to them, they're just um, are not answering you at all. You feel like they're not there, they're not present in the moment. And grounding techniques are a way for us to bring them, like to catch this survivor and to bring them down to earth, bring them down to the ground, to the present moment, to the now. Okay? So, they may be lost in their ideas, they may be thinking a lot, they might just be too numb to be aware of their surroundings. So, this is when you use grounding techniques. Okay. And when you ask them, name me five things that you can see, name me three things that you can hear, this will connect them to their environment. It will make them better aware of their surroundings. And so they will become more present in the moment. Okay. And sometimes grounding techniques are necessary before you start psychological first aid. Otherwise, the person will just not talk to you. They might not be there with you. Okay, or whatever you say to them, they are not registering. They are just not hearing it because they're not there. Another very easy grounding technique that you can use is the breathing exercises. So you tell the person, okay, listen, together we are going to breathe in and breathe out slowly. So I want you to breathe in, one, two, hold your breath, one, two, and then breathe out. One, two. Again, breathe in, two, three. Hold it, one, two, three, and let it out. One, two, three. Again, breathe in, one, two, three, four. Hold it, one, two, three, and let it out. One, two, three, four. And you start escalating from there. So you start with 2 seconds. You will see that the person in distress will usually be breathing very fast. They will be like, they will be very hyperventilating. So this will help them calm down progressively. Okay? You go from 2 seconds to three to four to even 5 seconds. And you count with them out loud. So while they are breathing, you you make them know how many seconds left they have, and you walk them through the process. In most people, it works like a charm, right? So it's not very easy. It's not gonna be like that, and then they will be calm. It will take them a few minutes, but then after a few minutes, they will be calmer and they will be more present with you. But if you try and try and the person is just not responding to you on the breathing exercises, then you can try other techniques, such as the 5 4 3 2 1. And there are a lot of other techniques that can work. You can look them up on YouTube or on Google. You can ask ChatGPT, and I'm sure ChatGPT will be very happy to give you many examples of grounding techniques. Okay, so grounding techniques will be the first step if the person is not there with you, is in severe distress. I can see that someone is okay. Amazing. And then you use the rapid model. Okay. Does anyone remember what the first framework was called? We already learned one framework, one model, and Muhammad, yes, LLL. What does LLL mean? Muhammad, don't answer. Stop cheating. Look, listen, link. Thank you so much, Mariam. Yes. So, and Urush. So, look, listen, link. The second and final model we will learn is the rapid model. So, R is for rapport. You have to build a connection with the person in front of you. Okay? Otherwise, they'd be like, who the hell are you? Like, why are you here with me, talking to me? I don't know you, right? Why would I tell you how I'm feeling? This makes no sense. So you have to build a connection with the person. Introduce yourself. Introduce why you are able to do what you are doing, right? So, hi, Mariam. I'm JP. I'm a medical student and I'm a first aid provider. So I'm here for you. I'm here to listen to you and to support you. So introduce yourself. You can, if you don't know the name of the person, definitely ask the person for their name, because it's important to call them by their name. This will help with grounding them as well. Reflectively listen to their concerns. So ask them, um, what what is happening, right? Someone already mentioned, we can ask them, are you hurt physically? And then, what are you feeling right now? What is scaring you? What is worrying you? Okay? Uh, Express empathy, which means um, put yourself in the shoes of the person in front of you. Okay? Never tell them it's gonna be okay. Never tell them, uh, other people got it worse. Never tell them, I know what you're feeling. No, you don't know what they're feeling. You have no idea what they're feeling, right? So just make sure to let them know that you are here for them and that you understand that this must maybe a difficult situation for them. Okay. Gain their trust, of course, and let them know that whatever you guys discuss between each other is completely between you two, right? You're just here to listen. You're not here to judge. You can tell them that. Okay? This is the R in rapid. The A is for assessment. Assessment means to assess their physical needs, as we said, to assess their emotional state. So ask them again, what are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? What are the thoughts that are running in your head? Right? Assess them for the symptoms of distress. So you know, you need to look them up. They include rapid breathing. They include, doing this. Okay, I need to charge my laptop just a second. I need to put it on. I hope you guys are still with me. Stay with me. Okay, so you need to assess if the person is moving back and forth, if they are rapidly breathing, if they are repeating sentences or words, if they are shaking, if they have their hand on their chest, as if they're having, a heart attack, although it can be a panic attack. If they tell you that they cannot feel their hands or their feet, that they're numb. So all of these are potential signs of psychological distress. And then P is for prioritization. Prioritize those who are in immediate danger. Prioritize the resources. So, for example, if you have brochures on how to, cope with stress, and you only have 50 brochures and there are 100 people who are in need of help, then you have to choose how to allocate your resources in a smart way. Okay? And prioritize their complaints. So if they tell you that what is scaring them is that they're gonna lose, that they will now have to stop going to school because of the floods, don't tell them, like, don't force on them the fact that they just lost their home. Okay? Don't tell them, like, didn't you just lose your home? Like, why is it that you're scared that you cannot go back to school? Okay, so prioritize their own complaints and their own concerns. Don't force concerns on them. Focus on what they tell you and what they tell you only. Okay? Similarly, if you ask them, like, how are you feeling? And they be like, I'm feeling sad. Don't tell them, I understand that you're scared, right? I didn't tell you I'm scared. I'm not scared. I'm just sad. Okay, so reflect only on what they tell you and use what they tell you as a nudge, as an incentive, as a link to future questions and future discussions. Then we have I for intervention. Intervention has a lot of potential ways, and it depends on the person. So, for example, if there's a kid in front of you, you can use a teddy bear or you can use a drawing to ask them questions. For example, you can tell them, wow, is this your teddy bear? What's its name? And Mariam is gonna tell you, his name is Fluffy. And then you'll be like, is Fluffy hurting anywhere? And then Mariam will show you Fluffy's tummy. She'll be like, his tummy hurts. And usually in kids, the teddy bears or the toys are a proxy to their own feelings and their own complaints. Okay? If she tells you, like, you can ask, is Fluffy scared right now? And then she'll be like, yeah, Fluffy is scared. He's scared of the noises. Okay. Then you can probably understand that Mariam herself is scared of the noises. And maybe you can move her somewhere where there is less noise. Okay. So in children, you can use their teddy bears, you can use their toys, you can use drawing. So can you draw what you're feeling? What is happening right now? You give them a crayon, you give them a piece of paper, and they will draw their emotions and their fears and their concerns. Okay, so these are the kinds of interventions that work with children. Other interventions can work with adults. And I highly, highly encourage you to read about these interventions. Like, what are the things that you can use for different populations? Okay, and these include teaching relaxation techniques, such as, again, breathing exercises, using, art to relax, doing sports, etc. And then finally, D is for disposition. I know that I've been talking for quite some time, but we're almost done. Okay. Uh, so D is for disposition. Disposition means what will you do with the person after you end your discussion? Because you don't just want to end the session by saying, okay, it was a good chat, goodbye, right? Uh, hey, what am I supposed to do now? I just lost my home. I just am in severe distress. Will you just leave me like that alone? No, you have to link the person, as we said, to the services that are provided. You have to know what these services are. You have to be familiar with them in your own country. Link them to support systems and make sure to make a plan with them. So you can, for example, plan with them what they will do in case they suddenly feel like things are too much for them to bear. So in their mind, by the time they leave, they will know, okay, now I am feeling like it's too much for me. We planned that I will reach out to my friend and tell them about this. So make with them different checklists as to what's next. What will happen if this ends up happening to them? Okay? So, can someone repeat what rapid means? So, what is R and rapid? Rapport. Yes, establishing rapport. What is A? Okay, rapport and empathy. Yes. A is assessment. Very good. Amazing. What is P? P is a hard one. Prioritization. Yes. So we need to prioritize the people, prioritize the concerns. Amazing. What is I? Intervention. Very good. And this definitely, most importantly, includes active listening and reflecting back on what the person is saying. And then finally, what is P? What is D? Yeah. So it's disposition. Amazing. So linking the person to resources, to professional help, etc. Okay. So a few tips, as we said, respect their personal space. Some people like um, touch, so physical contact. So some people would like for you to put their hand on their shoulder, right? Or to give them a hug. Some people will ask you, can I give you a hug? But some people just don't like that. So don't force a hug on a survivor. If they ask for a hug, hug them. If they don't, then don't. Respect their cultural background, respect their confidentiality. Tell them whatever we say, whatever you tell me, this is strictly between you and me. And respect again their desire to be helped. If they tell you, leave me alone, I don't want my help, don't force your help on them. Just tell them, okay, I will give you your free space, but if you need me, I'm here. You can reach out to me. Okay? Remember that you are a psychological first aid provider. You are not a professional therapist. You are not a professional therapist, so know your limits. Do no harm. If you don't know that something you say will not cause any harm, then don't do it. If you feel like, okay, there's a sentence I think would be helpful, but I don't know if the person can understand it in a different way that is harmful for them, then just don't say it. Okay, do not do anything that might harm the person in front of you. And most importantly, take care of yourself first. If you are not in a good shape, if you are not aware of your own emotions, if you are not physically good, if you are not emotionally and psychologically good, you cannot give psychological first aid to other people. So take care first of your own mental well-being and physical well-being. And then once you are fine, once you are ready, then you can go and help other people. Okay? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are not well, you cannot help others become well. This is it for my session. I know I talked a lot, but I hope that I was able to give you like a quick overview of at least why, when, who, and how to provide psychological first aid. We went through the two main frameworks, which are look, listen, link, and the rapid model. So rapport, assessment, prioritization, intervention, and disposition. And now I'll give the floor back to Muhammad for you to practice what you have learned.
Thank you very much, JP. Uh, as always, it was a wonderful session. And throughout the session, I was looking at the participants, how many participants do we have? And to be honest, I've been part of a few sessions. At the start, we have quite a big number. And by the time we come to the end of it, we usually don't have even a fraction of that left. But you kept everyone engaged, you kept everyone, seeking for more, trying to know a bit more. And I think that really talks about your quality as speaker. And I would also want to thank our audience. They have been wonderfully engaging and interactive. And I'm sure you must have learned a lot. Before we close this, I would like to give you a few updates, which is I'd also like to just tell JP, which is that under this very same response, which is the MSCR, the Medical Students for Crisis Response, we have also generated upwards of 0.5 million PKR for the victims of these floods. And for the wonderful participants, we have another session on Sunday, which is specifically how to address children's health amid climate crisis. I'll share the link in the group as well. I think that is a very good continuation to this, because in any crisis, children are the most vulnerable population. And as healthcare providers, I think when we go to these areas, we need to tell the parents, the caregivers, how to take care of their children. And it is a very important point, a very important, I would say, theme, topic. So please do show up for that as well. And I think we would want to be talking about it for a long time, but there is a time constraint. And one other thing, which is that JP is on his clinical rotations, and he was very kind enough to take out time from that and come here, be with us. And I think that was very much worth it, because everyone enjoyed it. And now, just to have a little memory of this wonderful session, I'd like you all to please turn on your cameras. I have shared the Zoom background in the WhatsApp. You can download it, put it on your background, and we can have a nice picture. Even if you don't have your background, it's completely fine, but we will give you a minute. You can turn on your cameras, and yeah, let's have a nice little picture. We'll wait for like around 30 seconds or so. And if someone wants us to wait more, we can surely do that.
Yeah, please, it would be very nice for us to have a group picture. So
Yeah, sure,
no
sure.
pressure, of course, but no pressure, of course. but if you can, please open your cameras. And once again, thank you so much, Muhammad and the OC, for organizing this and for your very kind words. Thank you so much to our amazing participants as well. You were very engaged, and you made the session uh, like the way it was. So thanks for that and for your commitment. Come on, let's open our cameras.
Also, I hope, JP, you have been going through the messages. We are having a very nice feedback, and sure we'd love to see that the work we've done. We really like that. So yeah, do go over the messages that have been left in the chat for you.
Yeah, that's some very kind feedback. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and thank you so much um for this as well.
All right, guys, we'll be having the picture in. Okay. Does anyone want us to wait for them? Just give us the thumbs up. We'll wait for another few minutes, not few minutes actually, like a few seconds. But if there's no one, then we'd like to take the picture in 3, 2, and 1. And now one with a bit of, maybe a thumbs up or so. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Special thank you once again to JP. I am sure all of these people love you, and we'd love to host you again in the years to come. And we hope that when we do, it is just as a precautionary measure and not to deal with an active crisis like you're going now. Please do keep us in your prayers. Pakistan needs your prayers, all of us do. And thank you for playing your part by imparting knowledge to these wonderful members of ours. Every little effort counts, and you have surely played your part. Thank you very much once again to you, to our wonderful audience, to our participants, and we will see you in the next sessions. Thank you very much once again, and have a very good rest of the evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Shayan, you can turn off the recording now.